and more whipping solos. I was like digging the shit out of those. I'm definitely gonna cut that out though. That was weird.
Oh,
And
that noise was cool. I don't know.
Like an alternative music group called DJA.
That'd be dope.
If you wanted to.
We'll credit you if we do it.
Oh, no, just saying that'll be our 5th album when we make a change.
DJA.
We'll go into the DJ industry.
Yeah.
When you pivot to a Radiohead cover band.
You gotta.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, dubstep, DJA.
Welcome, fanatics. This is the latest entry in the Diary of Doom. I'm Dylan, and join me as we look back on the rich history of Doom and its sound based on the recounted tales of its followers. Every week, we'll have a different guest to spin their yarn. You can visit the website at diaryofdoom.com, follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, follow the podcast on diaryofdoom.podbean.com, and subscribe and listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever else you may get your podcasts from. And if you have a question or what have you, you can fire off an email to diaryofdoom1968@gmail.com. And normally I'd have a humorous and somewhat vague intro to provide for our guest this week, but unfortunately I did not have the opportunity to do so. So I'll improvise by saying that I like string cheese, and I like 9 layers deep as much as I like string cheese, which is a lot.
Awesome. I also like string cheese. Hell yeah.
There we go. But in all seriousness, the band joining us this week is 9 Layers Deep. They're from Buffalo, New York, and we are joined by Dan and Jim and Alaysa. And Dan plays the drums, and Jim plays the guitar, and Alaysa is on vocals and baritone guitar, which we'll definitely address at some point down the line in the interview. So thank you for coming on Diary of Doom.
Thanks for having us.
You know, prior to like getting together in this band, what was each of your like musical upbringings like? Did you have like a musical like childhood? Was it in your family, or did you kind of find it like on your own?
Well, my grandfather used to own a music store in Buffalo, New York. So long before I was around, there was a McFarlane Music on Tano on the street, and then 60s just department stores, whatnot, just put them out of business. So that's pretty much my background there. But started playing guitar when I was 13. Went to school for music. Got a degree in music education. Don't use it. Rather just play than teach it, I guess. And then that's my background there.
For me, I grew up. My grandmother was a music teacher. My dad played a little guitar, a little Chuck Berry. And for me, I joined band back in the day. And much to my parents' dismay, I chose drums. So I started playing on a bunch of random drums and pots and pans back in the day, and been playing ever since. Played a little guitar here and there. Played in some bands growing up, and was away from music for a while, and now I'm back here playing with these guys.
And for me, I would think that, I mean, we always had music on in the house, no matter where I was. Always on in the car. The radio was always on. There's like a thing in my family that like, if the radio wasn't on when I was really little, I would scream bloody murder until somebody turned it on. And then at one point, my mom's radio died on a long car ride, and she had to like sing to me until her like throat just like could not do it anymore. But I started playing guitar when I was like 9, and I started seriously playing guitar when I was 14. I just kept going from there. I think by the end of my high school experience, like my senior year, I was in 3 or 4 different choruses. I was in like every music class that you could take except for like band or orchestra. And I just really loved going to shows, and I loved being around live music settings. I loved going to big concerts. That was a big thing for me. Eventually, I was just like, well, I want to do that. I got sick of being on the audience side of things. I wanted to be on the other side. And it's still a thing that I feel like when I go to concerts today, like it's hard for me to just like enjoy myself as a audience participant. You know, it's like I'm like, no, I know what goes on back there, and I want to be back there. But I started just trying to get more serious with the music maybe about like 10 or 11 years ago. And I went to open mics and just did terrible grunge 90s covers, like the worst thing you probably ever heard. Like, just as long as I could. Through that, ended up making connections through the music scene, and, you know, I mean, and a diverse network, actually, not just like punk or metal or, you know, whatever. It was like I ended up knowing a lot of people, and
Crossover.
yeah. And like through that, finally found a couple of, you know, avenues that I wanted to explore. I did a solo thing for a while. I started a grunge band that was very short-lived. I was in a couple other side projects, but then when I started 9 Layers Deep, that was what I wanted to focus all my musical energy on. And then I brought Jimmy into the fold, and we've been kind of going strong ever since. And that was like 8 years ago.
Damn.
First concert?
Like the first one you went to, first one you saw.
It might be The Who.
Okay.
Quadrophenia, Billy Idol, Ziggy Stardust, Ringo's son there, Zach Starkey, who was playing drums. It was my first big concert. First thing they got me into was Integrity. Saw them at a dive bar in Lockport, New York, before they got big. So right before they signed to Victory, and that was what pulled me into the underground, I guess. It pulled me under, and he wanted to do this, so that's
What was yours?
rock and roll ever since.
Believe it or not, my first concert was Dragon Force.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That rules.
That's so cool. Did they play Through the Fire and Flame?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Of course they did.
They weren't as good as on the album. So.
Can you imagine if they didn't, though? Like, everyone shows up to see Dragon Force, and they're just like, we're not going to play that Guitar Hero song. My first concert was it was No Doubt on their Tragic Kingdom tour in 1997, and the Vandals opened for them. And I very distinctly remember, I was like 9 at the time. I very distinctly remember Gwen Stefani telling all the girls in the crowd to turn to the nearest guy and be like, "Fuck you, I'm a girl." And like the Guardians with me were like, "Oh no, no, no." And I'm just like, yeah! Like thumb, like fingers in the air, swearing at the top of my little lungs. Like, it was very cool.
Mine was Smash Mouth.
Dude, what era?
I think kind of still in like their good era. So I guess that was like pretty early on. It was definitely like after Shrek came out.
I get so much shit for this, but Fush Yu is one of my like favorite punk ska albums of all time. I think they get a lot of shit because they were the Shrek band, but like if you go listen to Fush Yu, like going
I
into
didn't even know that's what one of their albums was called.
Yeah, no, that's the one that Walking on the Sun is on. It's silly.
The Mosrite guitar is pretty cool.
Yeah, they play with Mosrites, and
it's just on that song.
Oh, it's so
yeah.
Well, throughout the album, I think they play with it too. But they got silly songs, man. Like, it's like a weird cross section of like they're almost like Weird Al at some point, but like a punk ska version of it.
Steve Harwell's not even in the band anymore. That's crazy. He like is that band.
What?
Huh. Says he retired.
Well, he's the all-star.
Making money off memes, probably.
For sure.
So when did you start to like get into heavier music, and do you each have like a landmark album that kind of made you look at heavy music in a different way?
I'd be Integrity. They're just heavy away when I was 13, and I bought their CD, Misha, Those Who Fear Tomorrow, from the merch table, and my favorites ever since. Game changer there.
I'd say Korn Issues or Nirvana Nevermind for me. I brought in Issues to show and tell in elementary school.
Yes. That's great.
Oh man,
Look at this. Oh wow, you got a rock. Look at this.
That's awesome.
Real rock.
Oh my god. I would say that it's a toss because like I always listened to like the classic rock station growing up. So like there was elements of metal like, but I would think my biggest introduction to it would be like my mom gave me a copy of Judas Priest's Sin After Sin on vinyl when I was
Hell
like,
yeah.
oh god, I was really young, and I just remember being like, this is cool, and like listening to it, like this is music that I feel like I shouldn't be allowed to listen to, and it was awesome. And then like I did find a live album of Nirvana's at the public library that I got in trouble for never taking back because I would just like
Muddy Banks.
hoard it. It wasn't Muddy Banks. It was like a single or something that like was just in my public library that you could rent. And
The radio promotion.
It could have been. Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, definitely Nirvana there.
So you talked about it like a little bit, but like, can you talk about how the band came together and like, was it spawned out of like the music scenes that you were like kind of traversing and whatnot?
When I started the band, I was living and kind of like running a punk house, but I was into heavier music, so I started booking metal bands and bringing, crossover bands through. I just started jamming with people. Like originally it was just me and another drummer, and we were a 2-piece, and I think we played one show and it was just this jamming, and we didn't practice much after that. But then Jimmy and I started hanging out together. I was like, well, do you want to jam? And he's like, yeah. And we started jamming, and we like the first jam we jammed, like we wrote the song Fury Beauty. Like we were jamming that's like one of the songs on our first album. So it was just really cool to do that. I still have the recording from that, like the tape recording. And then like the guy we were drumming with wasn't like around anymore. He was in a different band. So I called up one of my friends who I used to jam with just for fun back in the day. And I was like, do you want to come jam with me and this dude who's on guitar? And he's like, yeah. So my friend Kevin shows up, and we were playing in the basement, and like somebody thought that there was a show going on like in the house. Like one of the roommates thought that there was a show happening and was like, what the fuck is a show tonight? Fuck. But like that just made us feel good, because it's like if you think that our first practice as a band,
We don't suck.
Yeah, we don't suck. Good. And so but yeah, so just through that summer, like we ended up, and we were working together, and then like Kevin came in full time, I think in the fall, and we just went from there with it and started to just try to play where we could. And then at that point I had gotten a job in a venue, so like we always kind of had a stage to play. Like we were just jumping on last minute shows that people needed to fill in for, or and then we were kind of still honing our sound too. Like it was like we read Baby Fresh Legs, and we were like, we want to be the Melvins, and like that's such a hard
That's a pretty high bar.
Yeah, like we're like, no, we could do it, we got it. But yeah, we found out real quick we were not the Melvins.
I want to be the Melvins.
Yeah, I don't want to be the Melvins anymore. I want to be me.
Yeah, and like in regards to your sound, I feel like it's kind of like a little bit fresh sometimes. It's got this like a freshness to it where I'm like, oh, this kind of feels like a song. Like it has like some movements and stuff, and like this part's like pretty fast, and it has like kind of a more like structure to it. But sonically, it kind of reminds me of like the Southern Sludge movement from the 2000s to the 2010s. It's not quite as caustic. I think that's it. It's not quite as like aggressive and like dirty as like the NOLA bands and stuff like that. So there's a little more like melody and complexity like those Atlanta bands like Black Tusk and Baroness and Alaysa had to offer. But like, maybe I'm wrong, and you could tell me who you're influenced when you play and when you record and whatnot.
Oh god, probably like Max Cavalera, Sepultura, this band right here, which is Justin Brolick's birthday today, so I'm wearing the shirt.
Happy birthday!
Oh, nice.
Be a big nerd like that. But yeah, it just sounds like that. Like Paige Hamilton from Helmet. Just listen to him growing up, like just that heavy music, and yeah, AC/DC even, I guess. Judas Priest, that's sort of the noodly stuff.
Because like when we're like doing songs and writing them, a lot of the times like it starts off with like he'll have a, like
heavy with that,
like he'll have like a riff idea, like he'll play it to me, and a lot of his stuff actually is very classically driven, I feel like. And it's like it's hard sometimes when like you're either trying to learn it or do like a vocal melody to it, because it's just like that's a classical riff almost, and it's like you feel weird just screaming at the top of your lungs over it. But
do opera,
I guess I was gonna say I could do an aria, but I don't want to. But yeah, but the early 2000s like sludge stuff for sure. Like I loved all of that.
It's like a hardcore background too. Like just going, I started going to like hardcore shows when I was young and just played in hardcore bands. So probably a little of that carries into it.
Oh, for sure.
To the sound.
That's in there too. And like when it comes to like, oh, this is a song, it's because like I think that comes from me having been like a solo singer songwriter for a while. I've kind of like grown out of that like thing where it's like, oh, it has to be like a structure, like verse, chorus, verse, chorus, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I used to want to do that thing the whole way through, but now it's just kind of like you can have a structure and not have it be the typical structure, and like you can get through a song. Yeah.
It depends on the song too, because like I know sometimes when we were writing stuff, we're like, what do we want for this song? This song seems like it needs to be longer or shorter.
Yeah.
You know, we try to go for some different stuff, different feels on different songs so it's not all one thing. It just there's something you can listen to an album and sort of get a bunch of different feels and moods.
Yeah.
Plus, you do the instrumental intro track, which I'm always a fan of.
Yes, we did do that for Sludge Life one. That album we put out in 2019. Yeah, Sludge Life is the title track on that one, and it was just a song that I was like, I don't feel that this needs lyrics, you know, and like I liked it as it was. It was nice and heavy. It's still one of my favorite songs, honestly, and I like playing it in the set because it gives me a chance to like breathe and like rest my throat for like just a little, you know, long enough to where I can get through the set. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, since we're talking about that, like that draw, as far as I remember, came out on 420 in 2019. What was it like putting that album together? Like, because I think prior to that, it was just a bunch of singles coming out and whatnot, right? There wasn't a secret EP or anything.
We were just putting stuff up on Bandcamp as it came out, and then I think like
the old EP.
Yeah, there was 4 that were up on Bandcamp, and then there were 6 on the final cut of the album, and you know, but they had changed between what you heard on Bandcamp and what was like mastered and put through on the album. But yeah, that process was real cool. I had never done that before. Jimmy had done that with a couple of other bands, gone and recorded. Danny, you weren't there.
Yeah, I joined in January.
Yeah, he's new here.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why I just pointed to him like Dan wasn't around.
Yeah.
So it was cool, and I remember our first drummer Kevin, he had never done anything like that either, so it was a definite learning curve for us. And I, you know, for me it was just like, I'm in a studio. Oh my God, I'm recording an album for my band. Oh my God, I am in a studio. And it was just, it was really exciting.
Doug's a good engineer too.
Yeah, like we work with the same engineer still, and like, you know, he's a great dude.
And because we were talking about it like before, you play a baritone guitar because the band does not have a bassist.
That's true.
So can you elaborate on that? Because I'm so used to like, oh, we're bass and drum only, especially like in this scene. And now it's like, oh, we're going for the baritone. Like, oh, that's interesting.
We're definitely the oddballs, I feel. Like, it was honestly a fluke because, like, I played guitar. I've always played guitar. And originally, I didn't play the baritone. For up until this year, I was playing on a Fender Jaguar. So we were 2 guitars and drums, no bass. And, like, the Jaguar was really beefy. And, you know, it put out a lot, but, you know, you definitely didn't have the heavy bottom end. And it just so happened that, like, my dad got this GNL, like, because he is a guitar guy, like, just a, like, boomer hobbyist, you know, like, trading stuff online with other boomer dads, and he came across this GNL, and it's got these, like, nasty pickups in it, and he's like, do you want to try this? And I was like, sure. So he sent it to me, and I plugged it in, and I was like, oh my god, because it was exactly what I wanted without going one step further into just, like, playing a bass, because, like, I don't want to lose any of, like, the high end, but I want a lot of the low end. I want to be able to play, like, a full guitar. On top of that, I had looked into, there's, like, Fender and Squier make these guitars called, like, the Bass 6 guitars, and it's like a bass, but it's set up like a guitar, and there's 6 strings on it, and it's gnarly. And this was the closest thing to that I found that, like, you know, I didn't have to buy.
GNL is George and Leo Fender.
Well,
That's a whole other story how GNL came about with copywriting and stuff like that.
So it's like a Fender, but it's a GNL, and, like, I like it a lot. It's really beefy. It puts out a lot of noise, and, like, people do think it's a bass, you know.
I certainly did.
Yeah, people think it's a bass, so, you know, like, it's doing its job. And
a nice register.
It is. It's heavy as fuck, though.
So it's
like,
really fun.
It's really heavy. It, like, every couple of weeks I get like an issue with my shoulder, just, like, from how heavy this fucking baritone is. But it's all right. I'll deal with it.
Just gotta remember to ice.
I know. Gotta keep it. Gotta do the, what is it? Rice, like, rest, ice, compression, elevation, whatever it is.
Obviously, you took some time in between releases, as I think many of us took time to, you know, because we kind of had to. But you did put out an EP last year called 2 Towers, and you're currently getting ready to put out another album this year called Impermanence. So what was it like recording the EP, and what's it been like doing the new album compared to putting out the first one?
Well, the EP was interesting because we had found ourselves without a drummer, and we had the studio date, and it was just like, do we cancel this? Do we want to put out music? Like, and it was just like, you know, screw it. Like, let's put the music out and just release something, because we hadn't so long. And, like, you know, Jim and I are married, and, like, we live together, so it's like through the pandemic, it's like we're creating this music, trying to, like, do something. We finally, like, have a song that we really like and believe in, and then, like, we ended up losing our drummer, and, like, it was unfortunate, but it was just like, we got to do it for ourselves. And the thought process was literally just like, we'll do this, we'll put out this EP, and we'll add a previously recorded but unreleased track. And, like, we just put out the new single, which was Cemetery Swans. The way that one was recorded was that our engineer, Doug White at Watchman Studios, actually, he just listened to the song a bunch, and he's a fucking genius, and, like, used robots and drum libraries to, like, make us, yeah, and it sounds good, but, like, you can tell, like, I think it was the guy it's the guy from it's Steve Gadd from Steely Dan's drum.
That's a Dire Straits. Steely Dan.
Yeah, it's his drum library that's on there.
Okay.
If we put that song on the album, we'll probably re-record it, obviously, because we have
Yeah,
Dan now. Like,
we've
and we've
gone over it and restructured it a
yeah,
little
it sounds
Yeah.
totally different
Oh,
now.
yeah, it's more.
But yeah, it was
Got
just
more life in it.
it was more like, so like we're at this juncture, we're like, well, what are we gonna do? And I was like, and you know, we were talking to each other, and it's just like, let's just go for it. We'll release it. We'll put it out there just to have something out there, and then we can use that to find a new drummer.
To advertise, yeah.
And
Yeah.
like a trap, it worked because here he is. Like we started looking in December, and I think he joined the band in like the middle of January.
First week of January.
Yeah.
I can remember.
Yeah, it was like literally the start of the year.
Yeah.
That's when I was trying out and seeing if we all clicked and everything. So
And like the first time that we jammed together, I was, you know, he lives 2 streets over. We had no idea because we'd like just moved here from an apartment like in the city, and he lived like 2 streets over and was like, and I told him, I was just like, if you're cool with us and like you trust us in a couple of weeks or whatever, you can you know, you can leave your drum kit here, don't worry about it. And like he's like, cool, I'll see you guys next week, and just left his drum kit. Like, and I was like, okay, first okay, cool.
I got a good vibe.
Okay, good. Good. And then like the second or third practice, I was like, I would love if you know, like we would love for you to be in the band. He was just like, yeah, like he like knew, like he like already in it. Yeah. So that's where that EP led us.
And in the time, so since January, I think we've written probably close to 18, 19 songs.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, we're just banging them.
Yeah.
So we got a lot in the works. They're not all finished, but
we vibe really. We vibe really well together, and it's like, you know, it's like when that feeling you feel when like finally like all the pieces of the puzzle like come together, and it's like it's working. So not that, you know, previous, you know, eras of the band didn't. It's just that this one works the best and is, in my opinion, the best.
They seem to be pretty prolific.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I've had a lot of bands say like there's that moment where you're like, oh shit, that's working out. I like the way this feels.
It's definitely changing. Like the like having his drums is like, and just not only like his drums, but like he's super like into the band in like a way that we're into the band, and like, you know, like he's very enthusiastic about writing and about showing up. Like I don't think he's ever missed practice like ever. And like normally I'm like the most like understanding person. Like if you have to like skip out or ditch or whatever, I'm just like, cool, whatever, no pressures. Things come up, but like it's never been, you know, an issue. And like it's been really cool writing together too, because like
the process is so fun.
Yeah.
And for me for one, and I know they pretty much agree, it's like music is like therapy for us. So when we start playing, it makes the day better once we're done. No matter how tired we get, you know, we might play a lot throughout the night and just be physically tired, but mentally it brings us back up.
That's for sure. And then like just even the way that Dan drums now, it makes it easier for the writing process to happen.
You mean double kick?
Yeah. And then like he's got this gnarly like double bass drum, and I call it the last chopper out of Nam, because that's what it sounds like. It's just like just imminent, just and like
get to the chopper. Very influenced by like Gene Hoglan and like Dave Lombardo.
Nice.
And that kind of stuff. But grew up with like a lot of Slayer, Gojira, Meshuggah, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was like thinking you were talking about doing like with the drum programming thing. Like I was thinking of the dude from Meshuggah, because he's got like his whatever it's called, like the drum kit from hell.
Oh yeah,
or something like that.
Yep.
I don't remember.
That's it.
Looking forward to seeing them again.
Are you going to see Meshuggah?
I am. I'm very much looking forward to it. Mostly because I haven't seen Converge yet. I'm happy to check that out.
Yeah, oh my god, I forgot about that tour. It's gnarly.
I think the closest one to us is in New York, right?
Probably.
It's either New York or Ohio, but
Ohio.
They've been on my list to see for a long time.
I used to blast Meshuggah at like hungover frat boys who lived in the house next to the punk house.
Just some bleed.
Just like, oh my god, like 10 in the morning, because they would be up until like 6:30, fucking screaming their heads off and like drinking like crazy. We had real jobs.
Like bad
like,
colors of Oasis.
So I'd get up to go to work. I'd get up to go to work, and I would just set my speakers towards their window, fucking blast Meshuggah and leave. Like,
it's weird though, because like we have so many influences. So like one day we'll like I'll be thinking of Meshuggah when we're playing a song, and the next day I'll be like, I want to sound like the Cult today. Like it just like, you know,
yeah.
Or like let's do something poppier like Nirvana, like for this one section, and like I don't know, just you know, it's weird.
It's
Great influences, yeah.
It's weird too, because it's not weird. It's actually really cool that like what we had on our first album, I feel like is so like it's very similar, and it's like right in the same vein of like who we still sound like, but I feel that like the music itself has evolved to where it's just like there are some times where I'm just like we have elements of death, we have elements of grind, we have elements of thrash and like grunge and alt metal, like, and it's kind of just all in this like metal milieu that like we just vibe in that little space.
This dance skill also my playing level allows me to open up a lot more. There's a lot more I can do now with Dan playing drums, is you can, you know, do it. You can tempo changes and just rhythm stuff, and it's
I'm excited
a lot of fun
to get back into the studio and start getting some more tracks out there for people to check out some of the new stuff.
Yeah,
me too.
That makes sense to me. I can like hear that idea of, you know, like, oh, we're feeling this today, even on Sludge Life for sure. And you've just put out another track from the upcoming one. It's called Open Secret, which I felt like had a little bit more of like a harsher, like hardcore vocal approach, sort of like a Mike 9 sort of spit to it. And like, you know, a bit topical, considering like, once again, women are expected to carry the load without a stop for breath of air along the way.
We literally went to record it like 3 days after they were like, hey, they're probably gonna remove all your rights. And I was like, cool, fun.
Gotta do something about it.
Yeah. And with the vocals on that, I wanted, like, it's funny you say like Mike 9, but like I wanted like Dax Riggs, Acid Bath. That was where I was going for. Like, like I wanted almost like the vocal effect from Cheap Vodka, but like I couldn't, like we couldn't quite figure out how they did it, other than that's just how his voice sounds, you know. Like, does he sing it? Does Dax sing on them, or is it?
I don't remember.
Like in my head, it sounds like it's not him, but whatever.
I was going to say, actually, I got some Acid Bath vibes, and I'm glad I thought correctly on that.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I love Acid Bath. I've been listening to them a lot this summer, like driving around in my little station wagon that's like a grocery getter, and like the windows are all rolled up, and inside it's just like songs about murder and like getting loaded.
Macabre shit.
Yeah, just like hacking people up with an axe.
You know, since you've started now, like you've had the opportunity to play with some like pretty big names, people who roll through town. Like you play with You're the Cobra and Voivod, right?
Yeah, we just did that back in June. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, I on top of like being in this band, like I'm also like a promoter, and I've been booking on and off for like, I don't know, a long time, but like pre-pandemic, I was pretty active in bringing a lot of like the bigger, not like I might say like the more well-known like doom bands and like some like lower I don't know, some of like the metal genres through, if they were going to go on tour, and like that was really cool, because like I booked Year of the Cobra before, and I've also booked Voivod before, and like on, you know, separate tours. And so when we got asked to play that show, I was like, that's awesome. I've worked with them before, and like I was happy to like, you know, catch up with people. Like Voivod I never met before, you know, like that wasn't what that show that we booked was. They were on tour. The tour that I booked, they were on tour with Yob and Amon Ra. Amazing, but it was a bigger show, and like I wasn't able to like meet Voivod. I met Amon Ra, I think, and they were so fucking good. And
that band rules.
yeah, they're hands down probably my favorite band. I have no idea what the hell he's saying because I don't speak he sings in a couple different languages, and I don't know what he's saying most of the time. But man, do I get it?
I mean, he is like, you know, screaming bloody fucking murder most of the time, so I get it. But yeah, I think they did like, I don't know, maybe it was like in Flemish or something. I don't remember. It was definitely abstract and strange and weird as they are.
That last one was in Flemish. The Dorn Doom. I can't remember how to pronounce it.
Great album. Love it.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, we got to play with Voivod and Year the Cobra, and the show was awesome. Like Voivod was amazing, and I would just remember like watching them just being like, I fucking love metal. I fucking love metal. Like, this is so cool.
They'll bring you back.
Yeah, and earlier in the year we played with Crowbar when they came through, and that was our first show. It was our first show back after the pandemic. We hadn't played in 2 years, we hadn't played in 2 years at that point. So it was emotional and also super fun.
Oh, yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah, had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, just saw Crowbar because they rolled through town the other day with Spirit Adrift, and also got to see my friends in Somnuri. And there was another band that opened up. It was like a Long Island death metal band called Stabbed. I love death metal band names. I just heard them a little bit from outside because when I got there, but they sounded like they were pretty damn good. Somnuri kicked ass. It was great to see them again. Second time I've seen Spirit Adrift. You know, they rule. But man, it was fucking hot. Like, hands down, the fucking most sweaty concert I've ever been to. It was,
I believe it,
disgusting. Like,
gross.
There were a lot of big sweaty Crowbar fans there.
Yeah, I know them.
You know them.
Yeah, they take up a lot of space.
Oh, and they're all wearing Crowbar shirts.
Yeah.
So, but they were good despite the eternal moisture of the evening. But that's really cool that you got to play with them. So, like, you know, I've been upstate New York a number of times, like kind of more in the Rochester area. And there's like a very strong music scene, like over there, like of all types. And like, you know, in the surrounding areas and whatnot. Like, I know King Buffalo is from Rochester, but like, does Buffalo, the town, do they come out as hard for bands as they do their sports teams? Because I feel like you'll really like your sports teams.
It depends on the show.
Yeah.
It depends on the show a lot.
One of those things.
It's definitely, people love music here, and there is a good scene, and there are really good bands in the scene that like deserve a lot of credit. But Buffalo is also plagued with like being a drinking town. I mean, like,
sports and chicken wings overpower sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes football takes precedent over music, and like that's like my only real tiff about it is that it's like if we're playing a show, or if like I book a show or something like that, like I have to take into account, like, is this on a Sunday? Is this on a Saturday? When are the Bills playing? I don't even know, like, because people might not show up. It's August. I completely forgot that preseason happens, and
Summer's
like,
over.
yeah, and
Football.
like people are back to watching football now, and like I'm like, oh, okay.
I think there used to be more of a deathcore scene too a couple of years ago that I remember seeing a lot of shows at like the funeral home and a lot of that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's kind of not as big anymore. Still got bands that come in and play to their fans and everything like that. But
I think that it's there.
It's still there. It's still there.
It's still there.
We're scattered.
It's scattered.
Yeah.
It's like and I don't want to say that it doesn't exist or that it's not ideal, because like in truth, like you know, like with the pandemic and everything, like I stopped, I like kind of like went away and hid. So like I honestly don't know 100% the climate of the current scene.
It might have been it too, yeah.
But
like people still aren't back to normal.
Yeah.
The shows that I have been to and have from, like, I see like there's people who are just like, well, I'm gonna come out here and do this. This is, you know, this is what I want to do. But there's still like some, like, I guess, reticence about like coming out in public and being around people still post pandemic, even with masks and vaccinations and stuff. Like people are like, oh, we, you know, don't need to wear masks in certain, you know, like they don't require it anymore. It's like I work in venues sometimes and like I'll still wear a mask. It's just because like being around so many people, it's just more about like I'm trying to protect everybody from the stuff, you know. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, you know, like, and I think that there's still like some uneasiness out there.
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag, you know. It's like, even like I went to see Author and Punisher at St. Vitus, and like it was definitely not sold out. Like it was a good turnout. Like it was a great show, but it was definitely not like the most sold out versus Crowbar, where I was like, you know, literally like walking there, like you could look up and there was condensation on the ceiling. Like you know, like it's just it's like a world of difference, you know, like what just like 50 people will do in a room, you know.
That's gross.
So yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like, what do you want to do? And like I get it, you know, and sometimes people are just like, I don't know, they don't want to go out. So, you know, but there's other ways to support bands that, you know, if you're still not 100% back to that. So beyond the new album, do you have anything else in the works right now? Or do you have any shows coming up, anything like that?
Right now, just writing music.
Yeah, we shot a video for Open Secret at the beginning of the summer, and we're just like still working on that. We're gonna release that soon. Don't have a release date in mind, but it's like vaguely soon. So, but then we're gonna go to the studio in September. We've got 2 dates in September. So I think, like, originally we were just gonna like try to record all the drum stuff on one day and like do guitar stuff for the rest of the album. But I think that we want to try to record 2 different singles that we can release, you know, or at least just have ready to release. Because I like sharing the music with people, and I want to share with them beyond just like a practice video or a practice recording. Yeah. You know, like if we're going into the studio, I mean, the time is ours. So it's like, we might as well make something out of it.
It's tough for us not to share too, because like we enjoy listening to it as much as everyone else. So like we like making music that we like to jam to and that we dig. So
yeah, we get really excited about it, like in like a weird nerdy way. I'm like, yeah.
Well, have you been listening to anything lately of note that you want to share?
80s music on my job. That's pretty nice.
Oh man.
The
PA. Let's see.
I think it's stuck in my head.
Oh, let's see. I mean, like I said, I have been listening to a lot of Acid Bath recently. As far as like newer bands, they don't have anything new out at the moment, I don't think. But our buddies in Sunrot, they
my homies.
They're your homies too?
My homies from the homeland of New Jersey.
Yeah. See,
love them to death.
I love to listen to them, and like they're just so like goals as a band. Mm-hmm. Not only like what they sound like, but just who they are as people. They're just great people.
Yeah, I love them. We saw them at a festival a few years ago. It was like a small festival, and just sort of like kept up with them. And they've been on the pod. They were on the podcast in 2020. They were so fucking funny too.
Yeah, they're goofs. They're little goofballs.
Let's see. What have I listened to? We'll run through this quick. Janice from Body Void turned me on to a band called Haunted Horses. This is like industrial punk.
Cool.
Loved it. Thought it was great. The new Two Mold EP, Aperture of Body, is awesome. They got a bunch of synths in it. I'm a big fan of that. I listened to The End Is Growing Near by Panopticon. I mean, it's Panopticon. It's always good. New Ether Coven album. The relationship between Hammer and Nail is very good. I listened to an album by this band called Defect Designer, which is just like insane metal. Like it's just an extreme metal band. The album's called Neanderthal. I don't remember exactly who's in it, but I think it's like long timers from the scene. I listened to Greg Anderson's solo album, Forest Nocturne, which was pretty good. I checked out the band. I gotta remember how to say this. It's like Simandi. They are like a old school, like kind of reggae dub African music. It's psychedelic band. Really cool. Band fucking rules. I listened to Green River for the first time. Fucking unreal. Can't believe I never listened to them.
Yeah, I'm really into that, the early grunge stuff. Like, I don't know if you've listened to the Deep Six album, which is like, it's a famous grunge compilation album, and it's got like Green River, Melvin, Soundgarden, the U-Men, and this is before like any of them are like, and it's a good compilation album. Green River is so fucking good.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah.
I listened to this all-female death metal band called Castrator. Amazing name. Thank you, Dean Rispler. Listened to the new Pup album. That was good. I listened to this band called Wailing Storms, which is like folky, doomy, heavy stuff. And I listened to this UK doom band called Commoner. They just popped up out of nowhere. Thought that was pretty good. And a new Boris album, which is called Heavy Rocks, which I think is like their 4th or 5th album called Heavy Rocks. Maybe more, maybe less. This is a more riff-forward Boris album, and like, I mean, I loved it. You know, I'm a Boris fan, so I don't like love everything they've done, but
they're cool.
When they make a good album, they make a good album. So that's what I've been listening to.
They rip.
And of course, 9 Layers Deep.
Oh, hell yeah.
Can't forget about them.
Well, thank you. You must be one of our 20 monthly listeners this month.
So is there anything you want to plug? Like tell people where they can find you and whatnot?
I guess you can find us on Instagram and also TikTok. We're venturing into TikTok now. Ooh. It's weird. Yeah, it's weird, man. It's a weird.
TikTok is fucking weird.
I mean, like
new frontier.
I mean, like I'm not that old, but man, it makes me feel so old. Like when I'm like scrolling through and I'm like, that's a literal child, and I'm like, and that's a child, and I feel weird now that I don't want to be like, and then I have to like, hey, listen to my band. I'm an old person. I'm way older than you. Like,
what's weird though, it does feel like other social media is kind of like a ghost town at this point.
Yeah.
It's the response.
Yeah. It's what the weirdest thing that I've noticed is, and I've probably mentioned this earlier, more recently, is just like how much of a shift like Instagram has gone through, because like I would discover bands by following photographers and just be like looking at these like incredible pictures that they would post from shows.
That's a great way to find bands.
Right. And you're like, wow, that band looks fucking insane. I gotta like check that out, like whoever it is. And now I look at those same photographers and I see them getting like fewer and fewer likes on their pictures. Same with me. Like I do photography too. But recently I've been uploading reels and like they're the new thing, and it's like, well, that's cool, but now I'm gonna have like a bunch of videos on my phone. I'm gonna run out of fucking memory, you know. For a platform that started off as like a picture could literally like make you go viral, that just does not exist anymore, because they're all kind of parroting short form content, video content and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and content is one of my least favorite words.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's like
a business kind of say, we need content.
It's very soulless for sure. And but the thing that like, you know, with the reels is like you had said, like I'll make that, and like all of a sudden there's all these things that pop up. You know, like we made a reel like of just us playing, and we put it up like Sunday morning, and it happened to be like I wanted to get up earlier and post it, but I just posted it at like 10 o'clock when I got up, and like not even 20 minutes later, it was like over 1,500 views, and I was like, that's a glitch. That's not I was like, that's no.
No, man,
And then I
it's
refreshed
like-
it was like 2,000, and I was like, what? And like it's gotten over 4,000, and like that's the most views our shit has ever gotten. And I was just like, something broke. I'm like, something got broken. Like, how did we do that?
Yeah. But like in 2 years, they're gonna like change how it works, and they're gonna be like, well, now you have to put like a lot of emojis in your captions, and that's how we're qualifying this now. Who cares about views?
All numbers game.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You do it, what you write in it. It's just playing a game. That's how I see it as.
It's dumb, and it sucks too, because like when you're a band, like you're just trying to like focus on your music and like the art that you're creating, and like you want to connect with people, and you have to promote yourself.
You gotta get on the internet.
So you gotta get on the internet, and it's like then there's all these stupid rules about how you have to promote yourself, and like in order to be seen, and it feels kind of disingenuous, but like at the same time it's just like we're all just out here trying to like navigate the same waters, and it's like, you know, I don't want to spend as much time as I have been like making reels just for no one to see them, you know what I mean, when Instagram's telling me that, you know, people are gonna see them, you know, it's just so weird. And then when it comes to like getting booked on shows for like local bands, what the bigger tours are looking for, like their agencies, their management, that stuff, even the labels, like they're looking for like how many Spotify followers you have in a month, or like what your TikTok or your Instagram audience is. And it's like, that kind of sucks. I mean, I get it, because
it's the adaptation of it, I guess, because you either like you have to sing, or you have to do it, or no, and then it's like it's a sink or swim. You have to adapt, or
and like I
just playing the game.
You have to
like,
build your own brand, kind of.
It's
like before
find your niche in that. Yeah.
It's basically they just want to make sure that like you have an audience. You know, I personally don't understand how like we're like a global audience, like a worldwide digital global audience, translates to physical people who buy tickets and attend a local event.
Yeah.
You know, like that's where like the bridge I'm not connecting with between that logic. I mean, if that's what they're looking for, then, you know, that's just what they're looking for, you know?
Yep. I mean, I think that's pretty much it, you know, and that's why like Dave Mustaine gets to be like making videos of him being like, oh man, I can't see without my glasses on what brand of toothpaste to get. And that's why he makes those videos, because it's like, it's fucking Dave Mustaine. He's going to have a huge following regardless. He can just do exactly that. So
did we want to follow Dave Mustaine around and like find out about his toothpaste chronicles? No, not really. Like,
inevitably somebody's going to send it to me anyway, so I'm just going to wind up seeing it secondhand. That's how I see all this shit, you know. So well, I don't have any other questions, so I thank you for coming on, and thank you for taking time out of your evening to talk to me about 9 Layers Deep. And for all the listeners out there, just keep your eyes and ears peeled for the new album, and give them a follow on Instagram, and check them out on Bandcamp.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
You have a good night, man.
My pleasure, and that'll do it for this chapter of the diary.